Hello and welcome to Lunchtime Politics, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in the nation's commercial nerve center, Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Ozan. Here's what's coming up on the program right now. Nigeria's Governors Forum says the consensus on minimum wage is yet to be achieved. Organized labor maintains that the state governments can afford 615,000 naira minimum wage threshold. IMO State Governor Hope Uzodinma initiates performance monitoring mechanism for public officials as he swears in commissioners and others. And the National Security Advisor orders full implementation of the Cybercrime Prohibition and Prevention Amendment Act 2024. Coming on air with the latest happenings in the nation's capital, where dozens of protesters from Zamfara State occupy the entrance of the headquarters of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. They are calling on the commission to reopen the investigations on the former governor, Mr. Bello Matawale. The protesters, under the auspices of APC Loyalist Forum, are asking the EFCC to investigate all petitions against the former governor, including the alleged contract diversion up to the sum of 70 billion naira during his tenure as governor of the state. The Director of Public Affairs of the EFCC, Mr. Wilson Iwajirin, who received the protest letter on behalf of the chairman of the commission, assures them that the EFCC is determined to pursue every corruption case to a logical conclusion. Let's continue the tracking of the policy from the southeast with focus on IMO State, where Governor Hope Uzodinma has established a monitoring and evaluation unit to monitor the performance and assessment of his appointees on a quarterly basis. For him, it is part of measures to public officials to show accountability for public funds and trust. The governor was speaking at the swearing-in ceremony and inauguration of new commissioners and special advisors at the government house in Owerri, IMO State capital, says anyone who scores below average will be shown the way out. And now, debate over what workers' wage should be. The Nigeria's Governors Forum says it is yet to arrive at a consensus on what the states can sustainably pay their workers. A statement by the chairman of the forum and Governor of Kwara State, Abdulrahman Abdulrazak, explains that a 37-member tripartite committee for the national minimum wage is yet to conclude its work. And as members of the committee, the governors are reviewing their fiscal options to see the consequential impact on the various recommendations. He, however, maintains that governors remain committed to better wages for workers as negotiation continues. Recall that organized labor has submitted a proposal of 615,000 naira, I should say, monthly minimum wage for workers, and wants the federal government to approve same. And still on this issue of the minimum wage, the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress has been speaking on how the labor body arrived at a proposed 15,000 naira minimum wage for Nigerian workers. Mr. Joe Ajero insists that the present economic situation in Nigeria has called for higher spending and proposed the amount will go a long way in the lives of the workers. The NLC president was speaking on our political program, Politics Today.
The 615,000 demand is the most realistic. And being realistic is not all about collecting slave wage. Never. And we had a breakdown of this into about 10 items. We looked at housing and accommodation for about 40,000 naira. And I want you to tell me where we can get a room and parlor 40,000 naira in Abuja. Electricity stroke power, we allocated 20,000 naira. I want you to tell me where you can buy a token of 20,000 from the current tariff increase, and it will last you more than 1 week. We made proposal for utility and water for just 10,000. We looked at kerosene stroke gas. If you watch this cylinder that they fill, and you have to fill it about 2 times in a month. If it is at 16,000 or 17,000, as the case may be, or 18,000, you arrive at about 35,000. And we look at food, food for 6 people, 4 children, husband and wife, and we allocated 9,000 per day, which translates to 1,500 per person. It then means it is 500 per meal. If you calculate it and you get 9,000 per day, by 30 days, you have 270,000. And then we look at medical, for 50,000, assuming nobody goes on admission, for whatever reason, there is no major ailment. We looked at clothing for 20,000. I don't know what we're going to do with that. And then education, assuming your children are on free education, maybe you carry them to go to school, or if they are paying, only 50,000 is what we allocated to education. And then we looked at sanitation, 10,000. Because the issue of transportation, because of the situation that we now look at, if you have 4,000 or even 3,005, for 30 days, you are talking about 110,000. If you sum this up, you're going to have a 615,000. We didn't add anything, assuming you are paying for security, or somebody comes to your house and you are buying mineral, or you are taking care of your aged parents, or even relation, or whatever. This is what we have here, and we want anybody in the country to tell us, that these things are not this way. It's very important, and apart from looking at figure. However, 30,000 is a big money if inflation is brought down, if it is at single digit, if all things are equal. Now, if the government equally wants to take everybody along, we look at all those indices, that create inflation, devaluation of the currency, and all whatnot, especially transportation and high cost of living. If we check them, you can talk of another thing, and you can now talk of being realistic. You can't be realistic, when only wage is suffering. All other factors, in the country, is going high, and wage remain constant. There won't be equilibrium.
Let's move on now, but that debate on the labor issue continues. But let's come back to Lagos, where the state contributes over 20% to the country's gross domestic product. This is according to the State Commissioner for Economic Planning and Budget, Mr. Okpe George, who made this comment at the 2024 ministerial briefing held at Alausa here in Ikeja. Mr. George says, despite economic challenges in the country, Lagos State has recorded a quarterly total revenue of 433 billion naira budget performance, and the state GDP has grown from 27 trillion naira to 41 trillion naira.
At the end of the year 2023, the budget performance was 1.538 trillion, representing 87% of the year's budget size. The year 2024 budget aligns with the Things Plus agenda and is crafted to solidify the developmental accomplishments of this administration, with primary focus on the conclusion of ongoing projects such as the Blue and Red Line rail system, some stadiums, the Lekki-Ekpe Road, the new Mercy Children Hospital, the Okpebi-Mende Link Bridge. As we speak now, I believe that we're currently, the GDP, Lagos ranks at about the 7th, as we speak now. We contribute, I think, a minimum of over 20% of Nigeria's GDP. You'd find that over the period of review, certainly under Mr. Governor's tenure, you'd find that even the capital has moved, I think, from about 12,000 to 17,000. So so we're moving in the right direction. I think our GDP has grown from about 27 to 41 trillion. So everything shows that our indices are climbing in the right direction, despite all the shocks and all the problems we've witnessed within the country, the economy in the country, and the world at large.
Well, in the meantime, the Vice President, Kashim Shettima, says policy decisions taken by the Tinubu administration are already yielding results. He said this at a roundtable event held in Abuja, where he implored Nigerians to be patient with the president as he steers the ship of state through the economic turbulence he met on ground. Our State House correspondent Emperor Simon reports.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is here to discuss how the economic and social agenda of President Bola Tinubu is reforming Nigeria.
His Excellency Senator Kashim Shettima.
The roundtable meeting has in attendance the Minister of Information, Mr. Mohammed Idris, former Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mr. Shamsuddin Usman, heads of media agencies and professionals, among others. The Vice President tells the audience that though the decision to remove fuel subsidy and unify exchange rates was quite tough, it's impacting on the economy positively.
Our brothers in charge of the CBN, Mr. Amy Cardoso, and the NSA, Madam Nuhu Ribadu, had to take matters into their hands to neutralize the overpowering influence of currency manipulators who had conspired to frustrate our reforms. Today, I stand proud to say that their interventions have translated into desired results, and Naira's pushback against all us is an inspiring journey that doesn't have to be learned in Buenos Aires, as some will want us to do.
A month after the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy, we had to warehouse some of the excess revenue collected to avoid overheating the economy. That goes to show that there is a hope for a better tomorrow for this country.
He also notes that the administration has taken steps to tackle economic saboteurs.
Our promise is to wage war against corruption without interference or favoritism is being fulfilled. The ongoing high-profile cases indicate a new era of accountability. The administration's revenue drive is on track to deliver outstanding results with the continued digitization of revenue collection in all ministries, departments, and agencies.
The chairman of the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, however, wants the government to ensure office holders are held accountable.
During the presidential retreat, President Tinubu said to the ministers and other government officials, you either deliver results or get sacked. That's the next test. He needs to make one or two examples.
Other new initiatives Vice President Kashim Shettima says the Tinubu government has undertaken are in the area of creative arts, steel and solid minerals, housing sector, the blue economy and the digital sector, among others. From the presidential villa, Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
And still staying with issues that has to do with the economy, an economist, Mr. Muda Yusuf, has been proffering solution to the issue of volatility in the customs duty, where he has said that government needs to bring a bit of stability by looking at its exchange rate quarterly to bring stability in that sector, which impacts on the cost of goods and services and impacts on the performance of the manufacturing sector.
My understanding at the beginning was that what we are going to have was what we call a managed float.
Okay.
Because really, there's hardly any economy where you float currency completely. No. You have to manage the float. And what I mean by that is that you determine the level of the threshold that you think is sustainable within the context of your economic fundamentals, and make sure that you just play around, plus or minus, just as the way we do with MPR, where you play around a corridor. You can say plus or minus 100 naira, 200 naira, so that you play around that, depending on your economic fundamentals. And I think it can be done. We are not saying that you go and fix the exchange rate at 1,000 to the dollar or 500. No, you have to situate it within the context of your economic fundamentals, within the context of your capacity to support the currency. So that framework to ensure that stability is what we have not seen yet. And that is what is creating this problem. But even if you are dealing with that problem in the foreign exchange end, it is easier to manage at the trade policy end, because you have much control of that. And that does not disrupt the reform in any way. If the government or CBN decides in conjunction with the monetary authorities to say, okay, in order to stem this instability as far as trade is concerned, in order to even bring down the cost of living and moderate inflation, let us fix the exchange rate for the computation of import duty as 1,000. And you do that quarterly. The next quarter, you can look at it, and because this thing requires a handshake between the monetary and the fiscal policy. That is the only way this thing can work. It's not something that the CBN alone can do because of the trade policy implication of what is happening now.
Mr. Muda Yusuf is the CEO of CPPE, or speaking on our breakfast program, The Morning Brief. We'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll bring you more stories. Join us again.
Breaking news.
Again with the latest Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Developing stories. And the conversations that matter.
We see an increase because of the economic pressure on them. The people are paying more for crossing borders irregularly.
Get a glimpse of the world around you on The World Today. Weekdays at this time. Investing in the capital market can be tricky as the numbers move in different directions. Sometimes the bull bellows, other times it's the beer that pours. In all of these, an investment decision has to be made. On Capital Market, we help you take the right decision. Join us at 7 p.m. every Saturday, only on Channels Television. Capital Market, investment tips for you.
Welcome back. Let's bring you more stories now and tell you that the federal government appears to have intensified its fight against cybercrime as part of measures towards strengthening the nation's counter-terrorism efforts. Perhaps it's why the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, has ordered the full implementation of the Cybercrimes Prohibition and Prevention Amendment Act 2024. He has also directed the re-operationalization, those are the words they use, of the National Cybersecurity Fund by all regulators and businesses specified in the second schedule of the Act. Mr. Ribadu gave the order in a statement released last night by the head of the Strategic Communications in the office of the NSA, Mr. Zachary Menjiyawa. Now, in its bid to recover all outstanding revenues and tax liabilities from defaulting taxpayers, the Kaduna State Government Internal Revenue Service has sealed telecommunication masts belonging to telecommunications giants like MTN, Airtel, and Globacom. The companies are said to owe the Kaduna State government taxes amounting to 5.8 billion naira. According to the Secretary of the Service, who led the enforcement team in the operation, the sealing of the masts follows a thorough investigation conducted by the Kaduna State Urban Planning and Development Agency, KASUPDA.
We are here this morning to enforce on all the telecommunication masts of telecommunications in Kaduna State. And we are doing this because of failure for them to discharge their civic responsibility. So as usual, we will be left with no any other option than what the law gave us the powers and authority to do. And that is why we are restraining on these premises in order for us to shut them down and to log all their masts in the various locations in the state. Taxes are civic responsibilities of every citizen. I have always said this. And voluntary compliance, we always encourage that. We always encourage. That is why you will see that before we come, we have to exhaust all means, all possible means before we take the final step. So if like to say that it's something of joy, we wouldn't have just waste our time communicating with them, pleading with them to discharge their responsibilities. So I'm still calling on those people, on the taxpayers, anywhere they are, please, not only in Kaduna State. It is a responsibility that we must discharge. And if we do not discharge it, then certainly the state or the government has the powers to collect what is rightfully theirs.
Well, from Kaduna, we head to the nation's capital, Abuja, where the security of the FCT, the minister of the FCT, has expressed the readiness to adopt some drone technology to enhance security in the nation's capital. This announcement was made during a courtesy visit by the Endre Ederi, the Consul General of the Embassy of Hungary in Nigeria, at Mr. Wike's office in Abuja. Emphasizing that security is a top priority for his administration, the minister revealed that the procurement process for drones has already commenced.
Security has been an issue, but by the grace of God, yes, we've been able to reduce the level of insecurity. You can attest to the fact that Abuja is safer now. Yes, because indeed, of the way we have been able to tackle the issue. Luckily for us, it is a part of our procurement process to have drones. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert. So the security people who are in charge, I will let them have a discussion with our people so that they will identify the type of drones that will be effective and efficient. But whether we want to acquire some drones, yes, that is no going back. Also, the issue of agriculture is very key. Our own idea is we can collaborate and partner, like you said, in terms of PPP. We are willing to provide land, and then if you are willing to come over here to see what you can do, so it will become a symbiotic relationship, so that we can set up the process and know the kind of what we tend to produce, a lot of varieties, in order to see how we solve the problem of food security.
Let's head back to Talks on Politics. And this conversation took place on our political program, Politics Today, just last night, where a chieftain of the People's Democratic Party and presidential aspirant, Mr. Dele Momodu, has been accusing the All Progressives Congress of doing everything possible to destabilize the opposition People's Democratic Party. Momodu alleged that APC will buy those buyable and terrorize those that are not buyable in a bid to put the opposition in disarray. And these are some of the accusations he made, given what has been playing out in the People's Democratic Party. Let's take a listen.
It is part of the march towards 2027. APC will do everything possible to destroy opposition, buy those who are viable, to terrorize those who are not viable, and make sure that the parties are in disarray. That's all. There is no way. You see, because the plan upon which Tinubu came to power was largely in the north, and a lot of the people in the north who gave that support either support democratically or via coercion, they are already very disgruntled. I mean, you can see someone like my friend and brother, former governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasiru El-Rufai. You can see him moving around. So the man who gave them the pen struggled using the razor. So they are jittery. And so what they are doing, if you look at rivers, they are not fighting for rivers because they don't need votes in the rivers. They also need the money of rivers. And they know that in the south, the only man who can challenge Tinubu in the south is on Wike. So they drag him very close to them, and they will also make sure that he has no peace in rivers. Because the structure Wike is talking about in rivers is not the structure of giving APC votes, it's the structure of money, the structure of having direct access. And rivers have always played that pivotal role in elections in Nigeria, from Dr. Odili to Chibukeru Amechi to Wike and now to Farah. So it's a very strategic thing. It's not in terms of votes. A lot of people don't do their due diligence very well. So they would have known that what is going on in Rivers is about whiff of cash. What is Babitile call whiff of cash.
Oh, that's what you call a no-holds-barred statement from the chieftain of the People's Democratic Party. Well, it's politics. Let's see how things play out. Well, thank you for your time. And, of course, your usual company. And this is the last edition for the week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jeffrey Ozanga. You've been served on Lunchtime Politics.